Hello, you are listening to the Yolanda Shoshana Show, and I'm your host, Yolanda Shoshana, but you can call me Shoshi. So this show used to be called the Sacred Rebel Radio Show. I decided to make some changes and add more lifestyle because we as women, our lifestyle is our spirituality. Our spirituality is our lifestyle. Our love life is our spirituality and lifestyle. Our work life is our spirituality and lifestyle. We are so many amazing things wrapped up into one that lifestyle and spirituality is the way that I can help you live a charmed life, bringing you guests and information, spiritual things, and all types of magical goodness, things and tools to help you live your best life. That's what this show is going to be about. I'm still going to answer questions, so keep sending those questions in at shoshi@yolandashoshana.com. Sometimes I'll have guests, other times it'll be teaching, same concept, just a little bit more. So thank you so much for coming along on this ride with me. My first guest is someone I've admired through the years. If you follow me, you know I'm a huge Francophile. So I was so thrilled to have her on the show. Doni Belau, she is the founder of Girls Guide to Paris and author of Paris Cocktails. She is my first guest. I am thrilled, and I'm about to play this interview for you. So definitely make sure that you stay tuned and listen in. If you've ever gone to Paris or thought about going to Paris, I am sure you have been on her website. It is the leading guide for Paris. She lives in Brooklyn and Paris. What a life, right? And she's just wonderful. Also, make sure you go on her website and you be on the lookout for her. She's traveling with her book. Her book's sold out on Amazon. It's doing that good. And she's going to be making the rounds. She'll be doing another event in New York City in December, and I definitely will be there. She's invited me. Yay. So, get the book. It's beautiful, great for the holidays, and I'm going to be throwing a Parisian-themed party as well. So here's the interview, and I will talk to you next time. Enjoy. Bijou, bijou. Hello, you are listening to the Yolanda Shoshana Show, bringing you the best in lifestyle to help you live a charmed life. I am so excited about today's show. For those of you who follow me, you know I'm a huge Francophile. So today's show, we have Doni Belau, who is the founder of Girls Guide to Paris.com and author of Paris Cocktail, an elegant collection of over 100 recipes inspired by the City of Lights. Welcome to the show, Doni.
Thank you, Yolanda. I'm so thrilled to be on your show.
Yay! So, before we get into your book, I really would love for you to tell us a little bit more about your online guide, A Girl's Guide to Paris. Because it's the guide. If you're going to Paris, that's the place you go to. Why and when did you decide to start your guide?
Oh, my gosh. Well, I don't want to take up your whole show with that, but I'll tell you, it was 2009 I started it, and it was basically a desire to get out of the political and not-for-profit world that I had been in for almost a decade. I was exhausted from trying to save the world, and I wanted to do something terribly trite but super fun, and Paris has been on my mind since we've had an apartment there for about 15 years, and I had done a bunch of girls' trips, and it was my friend who I'd gone on a girls' trip with, and she said, why don't you do the Girls' Guide to Paris? So that's what it is, and it's obviously, actually we have 30% male readers of our million and a half readers, and it really is. It's 5,000 pages on Paris. We've got do-it-yourself walking tours that you can download for a couple of bucks. We've got a go-card that gives you a bunch of perks, discounts, and other gifts in not only in Paris but all throughout France if you happen to be going. And then it's just a whole bunch of content about, the best way to see the Eiffel Tower, the obvious, sort of touristy things like that, but also like the coolest wine bars, the things you've never heard of, like making your own perfume, your bespoke perfume with a nose in Paris, and having that be sort of the ultimate souvenir. Just sort of really, we kind of like to focus on out of the way, unusual, off the beaten track kind of things, because there's 100 books, there's 100 websites about the Notre Dame and all the wonderful, beautiful things that are Paris, but we like to delve a little deeper.
Nice, very nice. Okay, so Doni, why do you think so many people have a love affair with Paris?
Funny you asked that. It's a question I asked when I had my radio show of almost every guest, especially women. I think women have really this insane love affair with Paris, and not all women, obviously, but at least all the women I know, the ones that follow me, and check out the website. And it is a town that inspires women in particular. It's so beautiful. But it has a feminine presence, I think. It's, there's a quote saying, London is a man's town. New York doesn't know what gender it is, but I would say it's much more of a man's town, especially with the financial district and so forth. And Paris is all about beauty. It's about food, fashion, beauty. It's very feminine. And it's very romantic, of course.
Yeah.
Romance, it gets sold by the tourism bureaus and so forth as this romantic place. But it really is. It's romantic even when you're alone. So, I mean, what's not to love? Fabulous food, the most incredible fashion, the most beautiful architecture, but it's calmer. It's much calmer than London or Paris.
Right.
Or, the sort of the crazed drivers in Rome. I mean, other great cities, of course. And every one of those cities has something huge to brag about. But Paris is an addiction.
Wow. I think you summed that all up. And then, of course, the flirty Frenchmen, which I love.
Well, oh, yes. Hello. Absolutely. As somebody who's been married for almost 30 years, I do notice him out of the corner of my eye every once in a while.
Are you married to a French guy? Did you pick one up when you were there?
You'd think with the name Belau, which is actually the way you pronounce it in French. We Americans say Belau, but his family's from the Alsace-Lorraine region. But that's umpteen generations ago.
Okay.
And actually, he doesn't speak French as well as I do, so.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about your book, your beautiful book, Paris Cocktails. So there are over 100 recipes. Can you tell us what we'll find throughout the pages of your book?
Well, I was just so thrilled when the publisher, Cider Mill, asked me to do this back in the end of last year. So I went to 55 bars in 6 weeks in Paris.
Whoa.
In January and February.
Wow.
If you can believe it. Lived to tell the tale. My liver is intact. I'll tell you about that later. But inside the book, because of the fabulous, interesting, and somewhat challenging research I did, we've got 100 recipes, more than 100 actually, and they're mostly from the really talented mixologists and bartenders that I met through my tour through Paris bars, and we've got an incredible selection of bars as well. So we've got dive bars, hotel bars, bars that are just beautiful places, but there's a big emphasis on the craft cocktail scene. That's the sort of the newsworthy part of the book is Paris has now become a cocktail destination. Like New York, like London, they have picked up on this craft cocktail craze. And when I say craft cocktail, what does that mean? You're a vinophile and you probably know that it's been a trend for the last, 8 to 10 years. It started in New York and London, and Paris was really followed quickly thereafter. But a mixologist who's doing craft cocktails will be using artisanal, small production ingredients, small producers, and they might be making all their own bitters, or some of their own bitters, and they're trying to do something different, and it's, sometimes you'll try something and you're like, okay, just like, somebody who's really attempting to do something in art or, in food that's really out there. It's like, ooh, this is odd. This is weird.
Yeah.
But of course, all the cocktails that I tasted and put in the book are the ones that were the winners, and the bars too, because you don't want someone just trying too hard. So some of these men and women, there's tons of fantastic female bartenders and mixologists in Paris. So we highlight a lot of them, and then we also added in bars that you can find that are Francophile friendly or French bars throughout the U.S., Canada, and beyond Paris, like in London and throughout France. So we've got 35 other Francophile bars in there. But, you don't need to travel anywhere to use this book. It's got, 100 recipes and a whole bunch of French party planning tips and little recipes for, a midnight in Paris cocktail party, make your own, DIY craft cocktail party.
Yeah.
And, just a lot of fun things. So it's really a great gift book, and that's why they brought it out now, because it's incredibly beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people are getting one for themselves and getting one for a friend now.
Yeah. Because, this is great for entertaining during the holidays, something different versus the same old getting together and do the same thing every year. Perfect.
Exactly. And I love champagne, but we've got champagne cocktails that are a little different. So.
Oh, cool. So how did you start doing research for this? Like, did you just go, I'm picking one bar and I'm starting there and going with it, or how did you begin?
I have to say I was really lucky, because the first ever Paris Cocktail Week, which would put a big emphasis on craft cocktails, happened in January.
Perfect.
Right after I got there. So they had kind of curated the whole craft cocktail list for me. So went to all of those. And then, I added in, some of them I didn't include, but I added in my own picks beyond that, as well as the hotel, the dive, just some, there's like a ping pong. There's a ping pong bar in there. There's some fun in different places that are not necessarily just craft cocktail bars. We did some wine bars as well, which is, as you probably know, huge in Paris.
Of course, right.
Yeah, so we picked a few of those because, you want to be real well-rounded, just beyond the craft cocktail thing. So, but it was actually, that was the fun of it, doing the research. And I did have a great research assistant from the American University there, Ariana, which is like this most wonderful, adorable girl who spoke perfect French, much better than mine. So she was a great help.
Awesome. So what's one of your favorite cocktails in the book?
Well, at the end of the book, I gave awards out because, it's like you go to 55 bars and taste like 150 cocktails, and, you some stand out, and obviously, and the one that I usually answer this question when it's asked is the incredible La Piqueuse Bloody Mary. So, a big mouthful. But there's a restaurant in the 8th called La Piqueuse, and it's a one Michelin star restaurant. So it's in this gorgeous 19th century Hotel Particulier, which just means it's a beautiful, gorgeous old home. And off from the restaurant is this bar. The bar is gorgeous, and they serve a Bloody Mary that this guy called Valentin, Valentine is a great name for a bartender. Yeah, he invented this thing. Oh. And he muddles grape cherry tomatoes. And he puts in barbecue bitters. He does not put in any citrus. He puts in cranberry juice, obviously vodka, and then shakes it all up till it's frothy, put some white pepper on top and around the rim, and not the whole rim, half the rim, which I think is great if you're not as much into salty stuff as I am. Cajun spicy salt. It is the best Bloody Mary that you'll ever have, probably, although there's actually 2 more in the book, because I didn't realize until I did the research for this book that the Bloody Mary was invented in Paris.
It was?
By a Frenchman. Who knew? Who knew that?
I definitely would have never thought that. I'm not a huge Bloody Mary fan, but I would try that one.
Oh my God, it's so good. No, and it tastes very different because super fresh tasting. Tastes like something else.
Right.
But the Bloody Mary was actually invented at Harry's New York bar in like the 19-teens and by a Frenchman, and then brought over here and actually became much more popular here in New York, but invented there. So it was kind of a great full circle come around to have that.
That's amazing. That's spectacular. That's a fun fact. Huh.
I know, right?
So you have tips in the book on how to throw a Parisian cocktail party. Can you share one of your tips so that we can all have that in our arsenal?
Well, this is a really different idea, and this is not something. This is not a fancy party idea, which is antithetical to what we normally think of everything at Parisian. But a craft cocktail concept doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to be focused on the ingredients, right? So what I did to come up with like 20 of the additional recipes, I wanted to take some of the classics, like a Manhattan, and how do we Frenchify a Manhattan? So what I did when I was in Paris is I got together about 10 girls, and they came over to the apartment, and I put out recipes of classics. So here's 10 classic cocktails. How can we Frenchify them? And I got a bunch of ingredients, and we did like a DIY invent your own cocktail party.
Oh.
And a bunch of those cocktails made it into the book.
Wow.
And what we did was like, okay, you're creating, let's say, a French Manhattan, or my friend made one called the French Martini, and I named it after her, French Martini de Nancy. And so what we did is that, you'd mix some things together based on the original ingredients, and then, let's add, some pamplemousse rose liqueur that's made in France, let's say, to a Greyhound. And then everybody would have to taste it, and then we'd say, yes, this is excellent, or no, it needs something else, or no, this shouldn't make it.
Right.
So you don't need to be writing the book to do this kind of party. And that was one of my suggestions in there. Like, have a Friday night, buy some interesting ingredients, ask some other friends to bring some other ones, pull out some recipes from the book, and do one round where you're trying out like 5 or 10 or 20 recipes from the book, depending on how many people you've got. And then the next round, make your own cocktail. Create something. And then, at the end, write everything down, or, put it into your phone, and then send them an email, or even print a little card out with all the new cocktails that were invented that night, which I think would be, that's like a really memorable, fun party to have.
I love it. Good idea. Wow.
Yeah, and
that's
also
cool.
Make sure you have some cute little appetizers. That's important. We've got to hydrate. We must hydrate, lots of water and lots of food, and, stick to the 2 cocktails. 3 is when you start getting into trouble.
Yeah, that is trouble.
Especially the next day,
Well, I don't know. You said a Friday night. I don't have to get up in the morning. So.
There you go.
So I believe your book is going to inspire many women to want to go to Paris, those who haven't. So what tip can you offer? What thoughts can you offer for a woman if she's going to Paris for the first time? What should she keep in mind?
Well, first of all, we call them Paris virgins. And, every virgin needs to make her way to Paris and become a Paris mama, I guess we'll call it. No, actually, I led a trip once of, there was like 3 people who hadn't been and 3 people who had. And, I think that you can do Paris any way that you want. And I think first of all, you want to do some research. The one big mistake people make is to not reserve in restaurants ahead of time. They're like, everything in Paris is great. You always hear this, all the restaurants, just find a little place. that is hogwash. You need a guide like ours or many, many others. We actually have, if you buy the book from our site, you can actually buy it directly from me, and it's sold out on Amazon right now. But when you buy the book from me, you get an additional free ebook called Eat in Paris that I wrote actually last year, and that's got all of my recommendations as well as, really culled the mind of some of the smartest foodies in Paris. But you look through that and pick the places that really intrigue you and reserve. And some of them you need like a month in advance because the best, just like New York or London or anywhere else, Sydney, the best places, if they're hard to get into. And you're going to be very thankful that you went to at least one really cutting edge, cool place that was tough to get into, because it will be incredibly memorable. And it doesn't need to be a Michelin star place. It can be just, a sous chef that worked in the Michelin star place that now has opened their own little bistro with everything being local. They may do just a pre-feed dinner and just with one choice. That's a big trend now. And so I say make sure you do some research and make sure you plan ahead. That's one tip. And the second tip is don't try and do everything. Pick your 3 things that you really want to do. You don't have to see every monument, you don't have to see everything. But do spend an afternoon just walking with no thought in mind as to a destination. That's how, there's actually a book that Edmund White wrote about this called The Flaneur, which is a person who walks without regard to destination. So you're roaming. And the roaming is where you find the most precious little prizes that you feel like you've discovered yourself. And, obviously probably someone else has seen them, but it feels really magical. So walk by yourself if you can, or with your partner or whoever you're traveling with. And, maybe don't talk a whole bunch, just observe. And that is, I think, for me, some of my favorite moments in Paris.
Awesome. That's the magic. I was totally thinking that when you said magical. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Doni. This has been awesome. Can you tell people where to find the book? Because you said you can get it on your site, right?
Yes.
GirlsGuideToParis.com. Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
I really appreciate being invited on and learning more about what you do. It's just so cool. You're a fellow Francophile and Genophile. I love it. Please, I'd love for people to buy it from me on GirlsGuideToParis.com because that way I actually make some money on it.
Right.
And you get a free downloadable book with it. We're also doing a contest. There's all kinds of good stuff.
Okay,
and
cool.
You'll see it right there. But of course it's available right now. It's sold out on Amazon, but they're getting restocked. It's available in Barnes & Noble and all kinds of bookstores all around, including Anthropology is getting it. So a lot of fun places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much once again, and thank you everyone for tuning in. And once again, I am Yolanda Shoshana. You can find me at YolandaShoshana.com. I wish you all the best, and may you have magic in your life. Bye.
Cheers.